I hadn't visited my dad in months, not because I didn't care. I was married, busy building my own life, trying to balance everything at once. And every time I asked, my brother would say the same thing. He's doing great, don't worry about him. So I didn't, because trusting him felt easier than questioning him. My husband said it once, you should go see him yourself. I said I would. I just didn't. Until one day, I did. And the moment I walked into that room, I knew something wasn't right. No photos, no personal things, no sign that someone lived there, just a bed, a chair, and silence. My dad smiled when he saw me, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was relief. And that was the moment I realized I hadn't just stayed away. I had been kept away. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 33 years old, and what I found that day changed everything. Before I tell you what I discovered, subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Because this story isn't about distance, it's about what happens when trust gets used. Life got busy. Marriage, work, new routines, everything moving at once. And in the middle of all that, my brother stepped in. I'll handle Dad. He said it like it was simple, like it was under control, and I believed him. Because I wanted to believe someone was there when I couldn't be. Every time I checked in, the answers were the same. He's fine. He's comfortable. He's adjusting well. Nothing detailed. Nothing specific. Just enough to stop me from asking more. And slowly, I stopped asking. One night, my husband looked at me and said, "When's the last time you saw him?" I paused, because I didn't have a clear answer. "It's been a while." He nodded slowly. "You should go." Not judging, not pushing, just certain. I kept saying I would. Next weekend. After work. When things slowed down. But things never slowed down. And somehow, time just kept passing, until visiting turned into something I kept postponing, without realizing why. Then one day, I called my dad, and his voice sounded different, quieter, slower. "You're busy." "I know." That line stayed with me, because it didn't sound like reassurance. It sounded like acceptance. That night, I didn't tell my brother, didn't ask, didn't warn anyone. I just decided I was going. Because something inside me finally said, this doesn't feel right anymore. The building looked normal, clean, organized, nothing alarming. But as soon as I walked in, I felt it. Not something obvious. Just something missing. Something quiet. Something empty. I walked past other rooms and noticed something immediately. Photos, family pictures, decorations, personal items, signs that people were remembered. Then I reached my dad's room, and everything changed. I stepped inside slowly, and my chest tightened, because there was nothing there. No photos, no memories, no life. Just a space. Someone had been placed in, not someone living. My dad looked up, saw me, and smiled. But not like before. Not warm, not surprised. Relieved. Then he said softly, "You came." And in that moment, I knew something was very wrong. If you think this was just a bad place, you're wrong. Because what I found next had nothing to do with the facility. I sat next to him for a while, tried to talk normally, asked simple things. "Are you comfortable here? Do you like the staff?" He nodded every time, too quickly, too carefully, like he was choosing the right answers, not the honest ones. And the longer I sat there, the stronger that feeling got. This wasn't just a visit. Something here was being hidden. Then he looked at me again, a little longer this time, and said quietly, "I didn't want to bother you." I frowned. "Bother me?" He nodded. "You finally have your own life." That sentence didn't feel like reassurance. It felt like something he had been told. Repeated. Accepted. I told him I'd be right back. Stepped out into the hallway, closed the door gently, and just stood there for a second. Because I needed to think. Not emotionally. Clearly. Because something didn't match. And I couldn't ignore it anymore. That's when someone approached me. A staff member. She didn't rush. Didn't look official. But she looked aware. "You're his daughter, right?" I nodded. And she lowered her voice slightly. "You don't come here often." Not a question. A statement. I answered honestly. "I thought everything was okay." She paused, looked toward the room, then back at me. "That's what you were told." That line shifted everything, because now it wasn't just a feeling. She hesitated for a second, then added quietly, "Your brother didn't want to move him here at first." I froze. "What do you mean?" She continued, "But his wife pushed for it." That word, pushed, landed hard. I stared at her, waiting, and she said it plainly. "I heard them say they needed the room at the house." Silence, because I understood immediately. This wasn't about medical care. This was about convenience. I asked one more question. "Did he agree to come here?" She didn't answer right away. Just looked toward his room for a second, then back at me. "He didn't fight it." Pause. "But that's not the same as choosing it." That line stayed with me, because in that moment, I understood something clearly. He hadn't been moved. He had been pushed. I stepped back slowly, because now, everything my brother said sounded different. Better off. Safer. Handled. Those words weren't about care. They were about control. I walked back toward my dad's room, but I didn't go in immediately, because now, I wasn't just visiting. I was looking for anything else that didn't make sense, because something told me this wasn't the full truth. Not even close. If you think this ends with just a bad decision, you're wrong. Because what I found that night had nothing to do with the room. That night, I didn't go home and forget about it. I sat in my car for a long time, engine off, hands still on the steering wheel, because something inside me wouldn't let it go. Everything I saw that day, my dad's room, his voice, the way he smiled, it didn't match what I had been told for months. And for the first time, I stopped trusting the updates and started trusting what I felt. So, instead of going home, I opened my phone and checked something I hadn't looked at in a long time. My dad had once added me to one of his accounts. Years ago. Just in case. I never used it. Never needed to. Because my brother handled everything. Or at least, that's what I believed. But that night, I logged in. Slowly. Carefully. Almost like I was expecting nothing. Because part of me still hoped everything was fine. At first, it looked normal. Balance was there. Monthly deposits were coming in. His retirement payments. Exactly as expected. And for a second, I almost felt relieved. Like maybe I was overthinking everything. Like maybe the room, the silence, the feeling meant nothing. But then, I scrolled down, and everything changed. There were transactions, regular ones, not random, not occasional, consistent, every single month, large amounts, not small expenses, not care-related payments, structured withdrawals. And the pattern was clear. This wasn't someone managing money. This was someone using it. I clicked on one of the transactions, looked at the description. Care services. but the amount didn't match what a place like that would cost. Not even close. Then I checked another one. Same label, different amount. And that's when it hit me. The labels were fake, made to look normal, made to avoid questions. I followed the routing, step by step, because money always leaves a trail, and eventually, I found it. The destination account. Name listed clearly. No confusion, no mistake. It was my brother. Not the facility. Not a provider. Him. I leaned back in my seat, phone still in my hand, because now, everything made sense. The controlled visits, the short calls, the excuses, the silence in that room. He wasn't just taking care of Dad. He was controlling everything around him. So no one else could see what was really happening. This wasn't about space, wasn't about safety, wasn't even about convenience anymore. It was about access, access to money, access to decisions, access to someone who couldn't question things anymore. And as long as my dad stayed there, quiet, isolated, everything continued. But the hardest part wasn't the money. It wasn't even the control. It was my dad's voice. That one sentence. I didn't want to bother you. Because now I understood. That didn't come from him. That came from what he was made to believe. That he was a burden. That he should stay quiet. I locked my phone, sat there for a moment, and made a decision. Not emotional, not reactive, clear. I wasn't going to call my brother. I wasn't going to argue, because this wasn't something you fix with a conversation. This needed to be handled properly, quietly, completely. And in that moment, I stopped being the one who trusted him and became the one who saw everything. If you think I confronted him right away, you're wrong, because what I did next changed everything without a single argument. That night, I didn't call my brother, didn't text him, didn't confront him at all, because I knew. The moment I reacted emotionally, I would lose control of the situation, and he had been controlling everything for months. So instead, I did the opposite. I stayed completely silent, because silence was the only thing he wasn't expecting. When I got home, my husband could tell something was wrong. I didn't explain everything at once. I just said, "Something's not right with my dad." He didn't interrupt, didn't question me. He just listened. And when I finished, he said one thing. Then we fix it. Quietly. Not angry, not emotional, just certain. The next morning, we didn't go to my brother. We didn't argue. We didn't involve anyone else. Instead, we went straight to a lawyer. Because this wasn't just family anymore. This was legal. Control had been taken, and it needed to be taken back. The right way. The lawyer explained something clearly. If he didn't fully understand what he signed, then it can be challenged. And suddenly, my dad's words came back to me. I didn't want to bother you. That wasn't consent. That was silence. And silence is not agreement. Within hours, things started moving. Legal requests, temporary holds, account reviews. Nothing loud, nothing visible, just controlled action. Because the goal wasn't to fight him. It was to remove his control completely, before he even realized what was happening. That same day, we went back to see my dad. But this time, it felt different. Because now, I wasn't just visiting. I was there to change everything. I sat next to him, held his hand, and said softly, "You don't have to stay here." He looked at me, confused at first, then quiet. "It's okay. I don't want to cause problems." That sentence hurt more than anything else, because even now, he was protecting everyone else, while no one was protecting him. By the next morning, everything was ready. A private care suite, better environment, personal space, real attention. We didn't make it dramatic, didn't create a scene. We just moved him. Quietly, respectfully, like it should have been from the start. And just like that, everything changed. No announcement, no confrontation, no argument, just control, shifting back. Because while my brother thought everything was still in his hands, it was already gone. If you think he didn't notice, you're wrong. Because what happened next was the moment everything collapsed. It didn't take long. 2 days later, my phone rang, his name on the screen. My brother. I let it ring for a second, then answered. Calm. Hello? His voice wasn't calm. What did you do? No greeting, no pretending, just panic. And in that moment, I knew he had already seen it. The account. It's locked. He was talking fast now, trying to sound controlled, but failing. The transfers stopped. I can't access anything. I didn't interrupt, didn't react, just listened. Because for the first time, he was the one without control. When he finally stopped talking, I said one sentence. Slow, clear. I didn't do anything. Pause. I just made sure the money goes where it's supposed to. Silence. Because he understood exactly what that meant. No argument needed. You don't understand. I was handling everything. His voice changed. Defensive now. You weren't even there. That line would have worked before. Back when I trusted him. Back when I didn't look deeper. But now, it meant nothing. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't argue. I just said, you weren't handling it. Pause. You were using it. Silence again. Because this time, there was nothing he could say back. No version of this. Where he was right. He tried one more time. We can fix this. I stopped him. Not loudly, just firmly. It's already fixed. And that was it. No more discussion. No more explanation. I ended the call. There was no big argument, no shouting, no scene. Because real consequences don't need noise. The accounts were secured. The legal control was changed. Every pathway he used was closed. Quietly. Completely. Later that evening, I sat next to my dad again. But this time, everything felt different. The room wasn't empty. There were photos. His things. Small details that made it feel like his space. And he looked at me. Not relieved anymore. Peaceful. He held my hand gently, then said, I didn't think I should ask for more. That sentence broke something inside me, because he wasn't asking for more. He was asking for basic care, respect, presence, and somehow, he had been made to feel like that was too much. I sat there quietly, holding his hand, and understood something clearly. I was busy building my own life, moving forward, growing, but that didn't mean I stopped being responsible for the one who raised me, and as I looked at him, finally safe, finally seen, I knew one thing for sure. I was busy building my own life, but I never stopped protecting the one who gave me mine. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and comment where you're watching from, because sometimes the biggest betrayals don't come from strangers, they come from the ones you trusted to care.